Hello, and thank you for tuning into this Injurati studio interview at Asian Utility Week 2016. I am Denise, and joining me is Stephen Mellor. He's the CTO at Industrial Internet Consortium. And in this particular session, we are going to be talking about what your company is doing in the region. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's jump straight in, shall we? Industrial Internet Consortium, give us some background information and the drivers for its establishment.
Certainly. The IIC, Industrial Internet Consortium, was founded March 2014 by 5 global companies who found that they had to work together to be able to build real systems and actually really make them work, because the kind of scope that we're talking about here is very large. When you look at industrial problems, they range from manufacturing, transportation, healthcare, even retail, government, all over, and they're very deep as well. They go from sensors through controls up to analytics, big data, and of course the business at the very top. And then in the third dimension, we have the fact, of course, that to be successful, we really need to be global. We can't focus too much on having different regional standards. We have to deal with specific regional problems, but if we're to be successful, we need to have global standards. So the IIC's focus, according to the mission statement, is transformational business outcomes. So we're not a standards development organization, we're not a technical organization. Our goal is to change the economy.
It's quite a big goal there, isn't it, really?
It certainly is, yes.
All right. How are you helping utilities, specifically in this region, to use data in order to increase their productivity and to decrease costs, for instance? Can you just maybe give us some practical examples, perhaps?
Let me begin with the general and then move to the specific. To be able to cause transformational business outcomes, we need to be able to bring people together, and that's an ecosystem, which I think actually is the main reason for the organization, bringing people together from different regions, from different lines of business, to be able to bring these things all together. But then you have to make something work. It's no good just writing paper. What you have to be able to do is to actually show something. So we have a testbed program which allows companies to come together to build experimental platforms in real-world conditions to test out new ideas. And those new ideas include specific technical questions like, can I get the precision of the location of this power tool to 2 centimeters? But it also involves different business models. To support that, of course, we have to have a business strategy, and we need to have technical references. But to get to your direct point, how are we doing this in Asia? We are building test beds in Asia. So to speak specifically to one utility, we have one test bed which is based in China, which is a water problem. The business issue, is that China has a water shortage overall, and it's where the water is not where you want it to be. And of course, like everywhere, but particularly in places that have relatively older infrastructure, let's put it that way, you have a lot of wastage and you have questions of quality. So we have a test bed then that is gathering data, let me even say leveraging, which is, I dislike that word, that gathers data from multiple sensors in a single city so far, and it uses that data, analyzes it, to be able to determine what the water flow is, because obviously if it's very high here and very low there, that must mean that you have a loss in some place. And also to monitor quality. So the underlying plan here is to, is to gather data from multiple sensors, in this case within a single city, analyze it to help us make the system far more efficient. So that's a very specific example, but of course we can go from that to multiple cities. We can go from cities here, there, everywhere. Obviously the specific issues in Asia are slightly different, but the underlying infrastructure is and should be quite common across multiple systems. So that's just one utility. Now we can do similar kinds of things with electricity. If you think about electricity loss in India, for example, again, if you can add sensors to the to the lines, find out exactly what's going on, use that data to analyze where the power is going, then again you can push that ahead. So that's just two examples, one very concrete and present, one that perhaps someone here would like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart city projects, what do you think is the development of smart cities in Asia, and what is your involvement, what's the association's involvement here?
Okay. Unfortunately, smart cities is one of those very general terms that's very hard to get at. I see smart cities involving things like the example I just gave you, water, but also transportation. It has to do with other utilities such as electricity. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. What we're doing is looking at different projects in different areas, and I gave you one specifically here in Asia, to help us make that happen. Okay? So smart cities is one of those very general terms where you can do a little thing here and a little thing there.
Yeah.
The real benefit is going to be when we bring all these things together.
Yeah.
So if you take, for example, if we were to take the city that has the water management system and then go to utilities management, electricity specifically, and then measure that and see why this is using more power here, whereas the amount of water that's flowing is not high enough, you can bring these things together and make much more progress.
Yeah.
Take another example. We have another test bed. This is not in Asia, but the same idea applies, which is based around ambulances and understanding the current transportation patterns. So if there is an accident and you dispatch an ambulance, the nearest hospital may not actually be the closest one. Right? And the particular use cases that we're looking at for that include actually utility failure. Right? You can't get through there because that traffic light has fallen. So that example in particular is in Europe, but the same ideas apply.
Yeah. What challenges do you think that this particular region faces when it comes to really harnessing decent value from data?
Well, again, this is one of these questions that's very general on how long is a piece of string.
Oh, for sure.
If you consider Singapore, for example, or Urumqi in Western China, they have completely different problems.
Yeah.
So understanding how those things go together is not a single general problem. By and large, though, I think that we need to deal with several kinds of infrastructure. Some, of course, is relatively old, but also because there's so much growth in Asia, some of it is extremely new. And that's a very good way to take the chance of bringing in these kinds of new technologies. The underlying technology and business issues actually involve a great deal of so-called brownfield systems, where you have existing infrastructure and you have to connect it up. But Asia has a big opportunity because it's building so many new things.
Yeah.
So it has an opportunity then to bring in the latest technology, the most secure technology, and go from there.
Right. And as far as improving the customer experience is concerned, where do you think Asia or the Asian utilities are at with regards to this focus?
Well, again, it's another one of these general, it's how long is a piece of string, and how does it work in Singapore versus somewhere, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, perhaps you can just maybe pinpoint on some really exciting areas at the moment where perhaps it is being put into place and it is actually showing some really good results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, the testbed that I was talking about is one particular area that I think is very important. Overall, we're still at the beginning of this technology. What we have is point solutions, one here, one there, one somewhere else. But it's interesting that a great number of these new solutions are in Asia, including another testbed actually, which is based on oil and gas in remote regions. I believe it's in China, but it's out to the west in the desert.
Yeah.
And the problem here is to ensure that you have the well is actually working, that you have the correct amount of oil being pumped and gas and so on and so forth, bringing all those things together. So again, it's point solutions, one here, one there, one somewhere else. Asia has a big opportunity to make that work. Just to take another example, I don't know how well connected this is, but the ERP system in Singapore, which charges based on when you go into the city and how much the congestion is. Clearly that's a real-time system that could be improved and extended across multiple areas to make traffic a lot less painful than it is outdoors right now, for example.
Right, exactly. What would be your advice to the energy sector specifically? And I know the region is huge, the Asian region
and how
is
long
huge.
is a piece of string?
Exactly. Yes. But what would be your general advice, perhaps even globally, to energy sectors when it comes to really using data in a smart way?
Well, I think it's more than just data.
Yeah.
Because we have the ability to do control in different ways. And so specifically, because this is a good opportunity actually, when you said specifically energy, we used to have a very centralized system whereby we generated the power in an oil or gas powered plant and then we distributed it.
Yeah.
The situation that we have now, of course, is that with solar panels and perhaps batteries in cars, we have a much more distributed system. What that means is that we're going to have control in different places. And we can't just say, well, I decided it's like this, I'll generate that much and away we go. You have to consider the control of the system as a network of nodes that need to interact. And I think that's a big opportunity. Because when we do that, we have the ability to balance the load much better than we did in the past. And being able to balance that load, we need more technology to make this happen because, for example, when the sun shines a lot, you have too much power. But there's things that we can do by putting that power into water in a dam, or putting that power into batteries, or putting that power into et cetera, et cetera. So understanding that distribution and bringing systems together and thinking more in terms of connectivity and less in terms of command and control, I think is an important thing.
Okay. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining this session. If you're wanting more insight into Asian Utility Week, please have a look at our playlist on njirati.com. Thank you.